To start, open up Photoshop on your computer. Click on Create New. This will open a dialog box. Now set the width, height, and resolution as per your requirement. You can use 72 ppi for the web images or 300 ppi for the high-quality output. If you want to know more about ppi, you can check my video, link is in the description. Now choose the background color as white, black, or transparent. I will choose white. Now click on OK. Here we go. Once you have Photoshop open, you can open a photo by dragging and dropping from your computer. You can also open a photo by clicking on File in the menu bar at the top of the screen, and then select Open. The shortcut is Ctrl-O, then click Open. Now let's get started with the tools. You can see all the tools on the left-hand side of the interface. You can expand the tools by clicking on this arrow button. Every tools have a shortcut key of their own, like you can see B for the Move tool, M for the Marquee tool, L for the Lasso tool, and so on. Let's start with the Rectangular Marquee tool. Rectangular Marquee tool selects an area in your image in a rectangular box. Let's select the painting in the image. Press Ctrl+ to zoom, press space and drag to move around. Now select the image. Press space to move around if the selection is not correct. Now click the Move tool or V for the shortcut. Move tool allows you to move objects and images around. You can drag this to a new location. Now this time, if you press Alt key in Windows or Option key in Mac and drag with the Move tool, it will make the copy of the selection. Here you can see 4 different options: New Selection, Add to Selection, Subtract from Selection, and Intersect with Selection. Let's try Add to Selection. With this option, we can make the multiple selection or add to the selection. Now we can select multiple objects at the same time. Let's try Subtract from Selection. This option subtract the parts from the selection. Let's try Intersect with the selection. This option leaves the intersected parts and remove all the other parts. You can use all these options as per your requirement. Let's move on to the Feather option. Feather helps to soften the edges of the selection. Now I have 2 image layers of a girl and a beach. I will copy this girl to the beach layer. Now this time, I will add a feather and copy again. It can help you to blend your selection with the rest of your image. You can see the difference. How the feather helps to blend the girl into the rest of the image. Now right-click to the Rectangular Marquee tool. There are 3 more tools. Let's select Elliptical Marquee tool. This tool selects an area in an elliptical shape. Let me add a new image layer. Click on the layer in the right-hand side. You can see a new layer appeared. You can see the blue cross over the image. It's because in the newer versions of Photoshop, every time you insert an image, it is imported into a smart object. Let's learn about the smart objects. Smart objects allow you to non-destructively edit, scale, and transform the content without degrading the image quality or losing any of the original data. You can remove the smart object from an image by right-clicking on the layer and rasterize layer. Now it's no more a smart object. To reconvert the image into a smart object, right-click on the layer and convert into smart object. To make any changes into the smart object, double-click on the smart object layer. Now it will open in a new tab. make changes and press Ctrl S to save. You can cut it. Now the changes are saved. Let's make it bigger by dragging. Now let's use elliptical marquee tool to select this clock. Now we have learned the elliptical marquee tool, I will teach you how to select and deselect a layer. To select a layer, press Ctrl or Command and click on the layer. Press Ctrl D to deselect. To reselect, press Shift Ctrl D. Now let me copy this clock. I will press Ctrl and click to select, then click on the Move tool. Now I will press Alt key and drag. Okay, now let's move on to another example of elliptical marquee tool. Now I want to change her eye color. I will make a new layer by pressing on Layer and create a new layer option. I will use elliptical marquee tool to select her eyes. Now look down at the color boxes. Top one is to select the foreground color and bottom one is to select the background color. Press D to make default foreground and background color, which is black and white respectively. Press X to toggle between them. Remember this shortcut. It will be very useful in future. For now, I will pick a blue color as the foreground color and brown as the background color. Now press Alt Delete to paint selection into the foreground color. Press Ctrl D to deselect. Now I will select another eye. Press Ctrl Delete to paint the selection into background color. Now I will change the blending mode to color and decrease the opacity. If you want to make it more precise, you can use the brush tool, which I will teach you later in this video. Now let me show you another feature of a smart object. Let me drag my logo over here. It's in Smart Object. Now let me make copies of it by pressing Alt key and dragging. Now I will double click on the Smart Object layer, press Ctrl and click on the layer. Press Ctrl Delete to paint the selection into background color. Save it. Now you can see the color of all of the Smart Object has changed. Now let's move on to the Single Row Marquee tool. Single Marquee Tools lets you create a 1 pixel wide horizontal or vertical selection. Click on the tool and drag to select. After the selection, press Alt Delete key to paint over the selection. Now press Ctrl D to deselect. You can zoom in and see the selection is painted with the foreground color. Same goes to the Single Column Marquee tool. Now let's move on to the Lasso tool. Lasso tool is used for freehand selection around the object you want to select. Just drag and make the selection. Now you can either move it or copy it. Right-click on the Lasso tool and let's select Polygonal Lasso tool. Let's change her lips color with this tool. This lasso tool creates a straight line in between each mouse click. So just drag and click whenever there is change in subject angle. This way we can have a more precise selection. After the selection, make sure the upper layer is selected so that our original image is safe. We will do all the changes in the upper layer so that if we do not want the changes, we can simply delete the layer. Now press Ctrl Delete to paint the selection into background color. Change the blending mode to multiply. Now click on the FX button and choose blending options.
In the underlying layer option, slowly bring the slider to the left. Press Alt key to split the button. Now there are two separate buttons so you can slide it as per your requirement. You can also decrease the opacity if you want. If you want to change the lipstick color, then select the color that you want. Now press Ctrl and click on the layer to make the selection reappear. Press Ctrl Delete to change it into background color or Alt Delete to change it into foreground color. Let's move on to the Magnetic Lasso tool. Let's select the bottle in this image. Click on the tool and start dragging. Magnetic Lasso tool automatically traces the edge of the image to create a selection magnetically. That means it can be helpful to precisely select the objects. but make sure the edges are clearly visible, otherwise it will not work properly. Now let's move on to the next tool group. You can see Object Selection, Quick Selection, and Magic Wand tool. Let's select Quick Selection tool first. You can change the brush size as per your requirement. Here we have two image layers. First one is a scene and second one is the man standing. I will click on the eye button of the first layer and make it invisible. Now, I want to change the background color of the image. For this, I will select the man with Quick Selection tool. Click on the tool and drag it over the subject. The Quick Selection tool automatically selects section of an image. The selection is automatically expanded to cover shades and hues that are similar to your current selection. Now our selection is complete. Now I will click on the Select option in the top of the interface and click on Inverse. Now our selection is inversed, which means the background is selected and the man is deselected. Now you can pick any color you want in the background color and press Ctrl-Delete to paint over the selection. You can change it as many times as you want. Now I want to change the image of the background into the scene. I can select the man with the Quick Selection tool again, but this time I will use the Select Subject option in the top of the interface. This option automatically determines the most noticeable object in the image and creates a selection around it. But it does not mean that the selection will be perfect all the time. You might have to make some changes too if the selection is not correct. Now the man in the image is selected. I will press Ctrl-C to copy. Now I will make this upper layer visible by clicking on this eye button. Now I will click on the upper layer and press Ctrl-V to paste. Now I will press Ctrl-T to freely transform. Now I can increase or decrease the size as much as I want. And then press Enter. Now let's move on to the Object Selection tool. Object Selection tool automatically detects and selects an object inside a defined area. You can define the area by using this rectangle or lasso option. Let's use rectangle option to select this bottle. Just drag over the subject and it will automatically select the subject inside the rectangle. Now let's try the lasso option for selecting the next bottle. It works the same. Now let's try to select the plant using rectangle option. The plant is selected, but selection is not that precise. Now select the lasso option. Now press Alt key and draw where you want to subtract the selection. Press Shift key and draw where you want to add the selection. This way you can correct the selection and make it accurate. Now let's move on to the Magic Wand tool. The Magic Wand tool selects a similarly colored area in the image. Let's try to change the background of this image. I will just click on the background. You can see it automatically detects the background and select it, because the background is in similar color. Now let's learn how to make a PNG image. A PNG allows you to have no background color so that you can save it and use it on other projects. Double-click on background layer to change it to a normal layer. Now click OK. Now press the backspace key to delete the selected background. Now you can go to File option in the top right of interface, then click on Save. Then under Format section choose PNG, and then click on Save. Now your file is saved as PNG image with no background. Now let's import the image which we have just saved. You can see the image has no background, so it can be very useful to make thumbnails and for many other purposes. Now let's move on to the Frame tool. Frame tool is used as a placeholder for the images to import. I want to place the image over the coffee. I will use Frame tool to do so. Here are two options. One is rectangular frame and the second one is elliptical frame. Drag over the area where you want to place the frame. Now adjust the frame size as per your requirement. Now drag the image which you want to place over the frame. Click under Frame Thumbnail and press Ctrl-T to adjust the size of the image. If you want to change the size of the frame, click on the frame thumbnail and drag to adjust the size. Now let's move on to the Spot Healing Brush tool. This tool is used to remove the marks and blemishes. First, adjust the size of the brush and start clicking on the blemishes. This tool automatically removes the blemishes, but make sure to use it carefully because it doesn't work perfect all the time. Right-click on the Spot Healing Brush tool and you will see the second option is Healing Brush tool. This tool is also used for removing the blemishes. First, press the Alt key and click on a clean area to take the sample. Now start clicking on the blemishes. It repairs the imperfections by using sample pixel from another part of the image. Now let's move on to the Patch tool. Patch tool can be used to replace the selected area using pixels from another part of the image. Just draw over the area which you want to replace and drag over the area from where you want the replacement. That means this tool is also very useful to remove the blemishes and many other purposes. Now you can see the next option is Content Aware Move tool. First of all, I want to explain you what Content Aware is. Let me show you an example. I want to remove the sun from this image. For this we can choose any selection tool. Let's choose Elliptical Marquee tool. Now I will make a random selection of the sun. Remember this, you should not make the exact selection of the subject for Content Aware. It should be a little expanded, otherwise it will not work. After the selection, go to the Edit option, select Content Away Fill. Now choose where do you want the output. I will choose Current Layer and press OK. Now you can see how the sun has been automatically removed from the image. The shortcut way to do it is just make the selection and press the backspace key. Then you can see many options, among them choose the Content Aware and press OK. Now let's select the Content Aware Move tool. With this tool we can erase the selection from one part and move it to the another part of image. Just drag to make the selection of the area which you want to move. Here you can see the under the mode option there is Move and Extend. Move is to simply move the selection and Extend is to make copy of selection. Let me select Move. After the selection, drag the selection to the area where you want to move it and press Enter. Let's move on to the Red Eye tool. This tool helps to remove the red eye effect caused by camera flash. To remove the red eye effect, just click the Red Eye tool and drag over the eyes. Now let's move on to the Brush tool. Brush tool allows you to paint on any layer to the foreground color. Now let's change her eye color more precisely. Click on the Brush tool and select Hard Round Brush. Select the brush size. Pick blue color as the foreground color. Now click on the Layer option and create a new layer. Select the new layer. Now to zoom into the picture, press Ctrl+. Press space bar to get the hand tool to drag. You can right click and change the brush size too. Just drag over the subject. Now pick the brown color as the foreground color. Start painting over her another eye. Use the History Brush tool to erase any unwanted paint. Now change the blending mode to color. Decrease the opacity as per your requirement. If you want to merge all the visible layers, right-click on the layer and select Flatten. Flattening the layers helps you to reduce the file size. Now let's move on to the Color Replacement tool. Here you can see the apples. I will create duplicate background layer by pressing Ctrl+J. Now I will pick blue as the foreground color. Now I will choose Object Selection tool and select this apple. Now I will choose Brush tool and paint the apple with it in the duplicate layer. You can see it's not looking good. Press Ctrl+Z to undo. Now I will choose Color Replacement tool and paint again. You can see the difference. A color replacement tool does not completely change the color, rather it paints over the existing color. So, how can it help us? It can help us to change the color of an object. You can try this to all the apples and change the color with it. Now let's move on to the Mixer Brush tool. The Mixer Brush tool allows you to paint more realistically in Photoshop. People also use this tool for a skin softening by separating high and low frequencies. However, I will teach you the best way of skin retouching later in this video. Now let's move on to the Eraser tool. Eraser tool erases the pixels of the image on a normal layer, but on the background layer it erases into the background color. Here you can see the two images. One is the girl and the second one is a beautiful scene. Click on the Eraser tool and start dragging. You can see the Eraser tool erases the pixels of the image. Let me select the background layer and use the Eraser tool. Now you can see the Eraser tool is painting the layer with the background color. Now double click on the background layer to make it a normal layer. If you use the Eraser tool now, it will erase the pixel of the image. Click on the Select option in the top of the interface. Now click on Select Subject. You can see the girl is selected. Again, on the Select option and click on Inverse. Now the girl is deselected and the background is selected. Now I will choose a soft round eraser. Now I will start erasing the sky. You can see the eraser tool is erasing the pixels, and the pixels of layer below is being visible. Let's try another example of eraser tool. Here you can see two image layers. One is the tiger and second one is the girl. I will decrease the opacity of the tiger layer and try to match their eyes position. Now I will press enter and increase the opacity again. Now I will double tap on the girl layer and make it a normal layer. Now I can drag it up. Now I will select the eraser tool. I will choose the soft round eraser and select the size. Now I will start erasing. This is just a simple example of eraser tool. Now what if I want the girl's eyes back? I cannot do that. I have to undo and do it again. But with the layer mask I can do it. So let's learn about the layer mask. Now I will drag the girl's layer down again. Click on the tiger's layer and click on the layer mask option. It will add the layer mask. The layer mask is completely white so the image is completely visible. Now I click on the layer mask thumbnail and press Ctrl I to inverse it. Now the layer is completely black. The layer is still there but invisible. Now I will select the foreground color as white. I will choose the brush tool and choose the soft round brush. I will select the size and start painting with white. Now you can see we are doing the same thing that we did before, but this time we are doing it on a layer mask. So if I paint with the black color I can get the girl's eye back. That means in a layer mask, painting with white makes it visible and painting with black makes it invisible. Now let's move on to the background eraser tool. In the top of the interface select sampling once option. Now left click on the image background. Now it has taken the sample of the background color. So I will increase the eraser size and start painting. You can see the eraser is only deleting the sampled color but not the subject. So, background eraser tool also can be used to remove the background. Now let's move on to the magic eraser tool. This tool also works the same. This eraser erases the similarly colored area in a single click. I will just click on the background and it removes all the similarly colored area. Now let's move on to the clone stamp tool. The clone stamp tool copies the pixels of area of an image and duplicate it elsewhere in the same image or in a different image. This tool is often used to remove unwanted elements from a photo, or to duplicate objects. Here you can see image of the plant. Now I want to make the copies of it. So, I will press Alt key and click on the plant to take the sample. Now I will click on Aligned. Now I will start painting. You can see this tool has painted the exact copy of the plant. Now let's move on to the pattern stamp tool. You can use it to give interesting textures and backgrounds to your image. You can choose all the pattern over here. Choose whichever pattern you want. Now I will click on Select option and click on Subject. Now our subject has been selected. I will click on Select option again and inverse. Now our subject is deselected and the background is selected. Now I will increase the brush size and start painting. Now let's move on to the History Brush tool. This tool restores image to the earlier state. See, if we start dragging over here, it removes the pattern. Let's select Brush tool and start painting over here. See, if we start dragging over here, this tool restores image to the earlier state. Now let's move on to the Gradient tool. The Gradient tool is used to create gradual blend between multiple colors. Here, you can select whichever gradient you like. You can even choose different styles of gradient. Let me select the background again with the same process we had done before. Now to use the Gradient tool, just click and drag. Let's move on to the Blur tool. Let me select the man in this picture. Now I will inverse and select the background. Now I will select the size and start dragging. You can see the background is getting blurred. If you want to have more control over the blur, go to Filter option in the top of the interface and under the Blur section, select Gaussian Blur. Similarly, you can use the Sharpen tool to make the images sharper. Let's move on to the Pen tool. The Pen tool is used to create precise paths and shapes in an image. When we click with the Pen tool, it creates anchor points, through which we can create the path or shapes. Right now the path is selected. Now when we click with the Pen tool, it creates the path. Press Backspace key to delete the anchor point. We have to end the anchor point to the point we had started. If we want to add any anchor point now, right-click on the Pen tool and select Add Anchor Point tool. With this tool we can add new anchor points. Now the path is created. Now right-click and choose Make Selection. Here you can add feather too. Now click on OK. Now we have made the selection with the pen tool. You can also make the selection by pressing Ctrl and Enter. You can also click on the rubber band option for the better selection. Now in the top left of the interface, select the shape option. Now when we click with the pen tool, it will start making the shapes. Now let's move on to the horizontal text tool. Horizontal text tool allows you to write the text horizontally. Select the text tool and click with it. Now you can write the text you want. You can see the text is not visible because the size of the text is very less. Let's undo it. In the top of the interface, we can select the text size. Let's make it higher. Now click with the text tool and write the text you want. Now to select all the text, click on the text and press Ctrl A. Now, to increase the size of the text, you can also press Shift Ctrl and greater than key. To move it, just drag it from outside of the text box. Another way to increase the size of the text by pressing the Ctrl key. You can also drag and move the text wherever you want. You can also select the Move tool to drag and move the text. In the top of the interface, you can select the font for your text. You can also select if you want to make it regular, light, or bold. You can also change the color of the text from this option. This is the option for creating the wrapped text. When you click on the text and press Ctrl T, it will open a dialog box. Here are also all the options of size, font, and many more. Now, click on the layer in the left-hand side of the interface. You can see the text layer. Now we want to add some effects to this text layer. In the top of the interface, click on the layer option, and under the layer styles, you can see all the effects that you can use. Let's add some outer glow to this text. Here you can see all the effects that you can use. Let's add some stroke. Let's add some shadow too. You can use all these layer styles not only for the text but for all kinds of layers. The vertical type tool allows you to write the text vertically. All other options are the same. Now, let's move on to the shape tool. The shape tool is used to create vector shapes, such as rectangles, circles, polygons, and custom shapes. These shapes can be filled with color or gradient and can have a stroke or border added to them. In the top left of the interface, you can select the shape, path, or pixels. Let's select the shape and drag. You can see the rectangle has been made. Here we can select which color we want to pick for the rectangle. You can also choose no color, solid color, gradient, or pattern for the rectangle. Here we can select the border color for the rectangle. You can also choose no color, solid color, gradient, or pattern for the border too. This is the option for selecting the border size. Next is the option for the border type. Now in the top left of the interface, let's choose path. Just drag it and the rectangular path has been made. Now right-click and choose Make Selection. Put how much value of feather you want to add. Now click on OK. You can see we have made the selection with the rectangle tool. Now let's move on to the polygon tool. The polygon shape tool is used to create shapes with a fixed number of sides. In the options bar at the top of the screen, choose the desired number of sides for the shape you want to create. Let's choose 3 sides and drag it. You can see it has created a triangle shape. Now let's choose 4 sides and drag. You can see it has created a rectangle shape. Now let's move on to the custom shape tool. Here you can get all the custom shapes. Now let's check the zoom tool. The zoom tool is used to zoom the image. Select the zoom tool and right-click. You can see the option of 100%, 200%, or fit on screen. The shortcut for zoom in is Ctrl+. The shortcut for zoom out is Ctrl-. The shortcut for fit on screen is Ctrl-0. The eyedropper tool is used to take sample of color from an image. For example, I will select the eyedropper tool and click on this flower vase. Now the eyedropper tool has automatically picked the color as the foreground color. Press Alt key and click the vase to pick the sample color as the background color. Now let's move on to the crop tool. Before the crop tool, we need to learn some features in the Photoshop. In the right-hand side of the interface, you can see the properties. If you do not see this, go to the window option in the top of the interface. Then under the workspace, click on Reset Essentials. Click on the Properties option. You will see all the properties of your image: the width, height, orientation, and resolution. In the bottom, you can change the units from pixel to inches, centimeter, millimeters, and so on. Now I want to crop this image into the passport size photo. You can see in the top of the interface, ratio is selected. I will change the ratio to width into height into resolution. For the passport size photo, we are going to select the width to 3.5 centimeters, the height to 4.5 centimeters, and the resolution will be 300 ppi. If you are confused about the ppi and ppcm, you can watch my video. Link is in the description. Click on subscribe if you want to watch more of these videos, and do not forget to like and share this video. Now start cropping by dragging. You need to place the head in the center. Now after cropping, press enter. Now you can check in the properties. The width and height has changed into 3.5 centimeters and 4.5 centimeters respectively. You can also go to the image option in the top of the interface and click on the image size to check the width, height, and resolution of your image. Now your passport size photo is ready, but if you want to print it, you need to keep the border so that it will be easy while cutting out. To give the stroke, first we need to double tap on the background layer and make it a normal layer. Now go to the Edit option and select the stroke. Now select the stroke color to black. I will select 10 pixels in the stroke size. Now I will create a new project by clicking on File and selecting New. I will put the width 18 centimeters, height 22 centimeters, and resolution to 300 ppi. The width and height don't need to be exact because we will crop it later. Now we have a new blank project. Now I will select this photo we have just made by pressing Ctrl A. I will press Ctrl C to copy. Then I will paste it on the blank page by pressing Ctrl V. Now I will move it with the Move tool and make copies of it by pressing Alt key and dragging. To copy them all together, I will select all 4 copies by pressing Shift key. Press Ctrl E to merge them together. Then I will copy it by pressing Alt key and dragging. Now I will crop all the extra parts. Now our photos are ready for the print.